Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. Coaches, the JAMODI podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. Sadly, early on in coaching, I don't think I handled two sport athletes very well. I think they felt the pressure. I think they felt friction. I think I was guilty of coach speak and deliberately saying things to make them feel like they're missing something. And, it's really frustrating, that I did do that. So I'm always impressed to hear people that have figured it out. Not obviously, I think you would say that you're not perfect anywhere, but like you have figured out a way to make it work. And you just gave some examples, but what's it like? You have these guys, 40% even, these guys in the gym, you're working with them. What's the conversation like maybe with the parents or the players when football comes out? How do you make that transition work?
That has been my greatest struggle since I've been here, to be honest with you. And let me go back and just say, here's what I've learned kind of a little bit of how to deal with situations is, one, you have to be for the kid. Like you got to be for that young man. Every young man is different. And you have to find a way to be and do what's best for that kid. But then also on the flip side, you can't compromise your standards or your culture or what you have going with your team chemistry to ensure, certain kids play. Is what I've learned. Here's the bar. Can you do these things? Okay. Can you even get close to doing these things that we're asking of our athletes to be a solid member of the program? How can I help you if you do desire to play and you're a four-sport athlete? How can I help you, balance it all? And so there's many kids that we've had that say, Coach, I don't want to play in the spring, the summer. I just want to show up in November through February. And sorry, sir, this is not the program for you. It just is what it is. You're not meeting our standards. And I got kids that are working year round that's not fair to them. It doesn't agree with them. But then I have other kids that, Coach, and I'll just say one kid, I won't say his name, but he's an outstanding sophomore player. He was the defensive MVP of the state championship game as a sophomore. He is my backup big this year as a sophomore. And in my exit interview, I said, here's the list of what we're going to do. What can you make it to? Coach, I'm going to try to make it to every single thing I can. And I said, great. I said, what can I do to help you be at every one of those things? And let me ask you this question as well. If I get after you about not doing this, and this to be better at basketball or better at your craft, how are you going to respond? And he said, Coach, I want to be a part of this program. I want to do it the right way. And if you get after me, I'm going to respond the right way. And I'm going to let you know that if I can't do something, it's not because I'm sitting on the couch. It's not because I'm doing this. It's because I'm balancing everything that I do. And I said, I can 100% work with that. And that's
impressive.
That's the type of multi-sport kid you want. And that he's not going to compromise. He knows you. He knows your standards. He knows the program. He's not going to compromise. Coach, I know what you expect. I'm going to do everything I can to live up to that. When I can't, we're going to communicate and talk because we have a good relationship. And so these kids know it. The other side of it is making sure you do everything you can when you can. So I have these exit interviews. Hey, we're doing this in May and June. I can do stuff in May and June with the whole team where I maybe can't in November because of their playing so long. So I think OU team camp, we went to it last year, huge, and everybody got to go except for one kid that was playing baseball. Everybody got to go to it, shootouts, TABC showcase, those types of, let's go. Let's try to get there, travel tournaments. So we always go and travel 3 or 4 hours right when they get there on a holiday tournament. I get them and take them to a hotel. So you're just doing everything you can, not only for those multi-sport athletes, but for those kids that you have all the time, for them to come together, blend together. You know, the first team dinner is always at the Vansell's house, and I try to cook up some brisket, some ribs, and I think I cooked like 150 pounds worth of meat, and I had no leftovers after the 11 guys came in and just tore it up. But just doing everything we can to work with kids, be for every kid, but also do what you can when you can, so that team chemistry is there. You know, when they get off of football and come into the gym, there's relationships built, and we're ready to play.
Coach, I want to celebrate you just on that approach to those players. I mean, I think you nailed it right at the very beginning by saying you got to be about the player. And it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with this thing called legacy that people worry so much about. I think when you worry about legacy, you end up burning those relationships that actually enable you to have a legacy worth having, you know, because you're just thinking of what could be in the future, but not the people that are there with you right now. And I really appreciate the question method when you're with the meeting with those players. Instead of here's the expectations, here's where you need to be, and I don't really want to hear any excuses for why you can't be there. If you're serious, then this is what has to be done. I would imagine I've been a part of those conversations. I've probably led a lot of those, and I would imagine that's a lot of talks go with high school kids. But when you come across the question method, I would imagine one that builds a lot of trust, and it says a lot about your culture, the fact that they can answer honestly. You know, like they can say, Coach, I really can't be much. I get that. You know what? I appreciate that. Here are our standards. And what I just think that's a really healthy way to go about it, man.
Yes, we've had some recent success. And, you know, there's a lot of great athletes in our school, and come on. And most of them joking, these big football athletes, studs come over, Coach, I'm playing basketball next year. And I was like, all right, I'll see you in the gym in a couple of weeks when we have our first summer workout. No. I said, nope, you're not playing basketball next year. Just, you know, the ones that love it want to do it, and they'll do it, and they'll have fun with it. And then the ones that just want to kind of do it a little bit, you kind of, even if they're great athletes, you kind of just have to let them go. It's tough, but you can't compromise what you're doing as a whole, because I think then the kids that you do have good relationships and the kids that you are trying to teach, you lose ground with them and you're not helping them.
Credibility. Yeah.
You know, being for every kid is sometimes letting one kid go so that, you know, you can help other kids even better.
That's a good point. How many of your players, let's just take last year's team, how many of your players from football were you really relying on? Like were your main guys straight basketball, or?
I had 5 main guys, which is pretty good for me in my 3 years, and then 3 that I relied on. So I had a starting point guard, 6th or 7th man, and then the kid that I was talking about would come in and play about 10 minutes a game. So they would play high minutes. Next year, you know, it's probably going to be more like 50-50. I do have kids in the gym. We can run a good program. We can have a great team. But, you know, when competition gets there, the best kid's going to play. And I would imagine 3 or 4 of those same kids are going to be the best kids in the gym when they get there after a week or so. And so we're going to go with it. So it's this last year was, you know, 3 to 5. Next year it'll be 4 to 4, 5 to 5. I'll have a little bit, actually a deeper team next year. So it'll be good.
I've got a bad rap around Faith for being anti-football player. Hey, Coach, I promise in 10 years, I've never told the kid not to play football. But what I don't do is I don't encourage straight basketball players to play football. You know, like I'm not going to volunteer like, hey, you know what? You guys should go do that. If they don't want to, I don't force them to do it. Yeah. And I think they know by now the skill work and the shooting. If basketball is really what they want to do and they want to get better, then yeah, it's good to stay. But on the flip side, if a kid loves football, loves baseball, and if I'm about kids, I'm not going to talk them out of playing. And I would hope if any former players are listening, I would hope that they would say, in my time with Coach Saman, he never told me I shouldn't play football because he knew I loved it. Now, there is this bubble out there. The moment they say college basketball, that comes out of their mouth. There does need to be honest conversations about priorities, time, because I try to tell the guys, like, you're competing against crazy people like me that after 8th grade did nothing else. And it's an extreme game of musical chairs. Have you had that conversation with any of your guys that may dabble in multiple things?
Not in multiple sports. I do have one kid who's all region kid last year. Should be next year. And, he could probably go play D3 or NAI pretty easily. And if that's something he wants to do and his parents have means, that I'd hook him up and do it and help him as much as I could to get there. But as far as my multi-sport athletes, I have one sophomore that if he grows a little bit, he could, I mean, he's probably the best natural point guard that I've seen in the last 4, 5, 6 years. And he's a sophomore. But he loves baseball, and like his goal is to play college baseball.
Awesome.
So, yeah, exactly. Awesome.
Yeah.
Go do that. And he's playing baseball right now. He has his last district game tonight. And you know what? He comes and sees me right after lunch. Says, "Hey, coach, I know spring league's coming up. Let me know when I come watch or what I can come do." And so it's, we build a program where we're going to work and we're going to do different things, but we're also inclusive. If you're willing to do X, Y, and Z, come on. And we build those relationships and have fun together. And what's nice, small school, I've coached all those sophomores that we're talking about since 8th grade, and been with them and around them since that time. So, I get to not only have a relationship 9th through 12th, I really get to have a relationship 7th through 12th with a lot of my guys because we're in a small school, one school town, and they love it. And I haven't had that opportunity yet in that conversation yet, but I do agree with you. There's like Michael Lancaster was talking about in your last podcast. You actually have a better percentage if you do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
and but you have to do X, Y, and Z.
The moment you just start giving away time units to other things, then, but it is tough. I think it's always hard when a player or a parent learns that they can't just do everything that they want. You can, but it's debatable on whether you can be elite or great at everything.
Yeah.
But so that's why I do believe that a singular focus at times will give you the greatest opportunity to be great, to be the best at something that you can be. But that's not for everybody. So when a kid says, "I don't want to play college basketball," well, then listen, like your school, there's a lot that Faith can offer you. But then when after your senior year or it's the regret piece that's always hard for me. Well, coach, what do you think? You think I can't? Well, no, we got to get a time machine and we got to go back 4 years and we got to start there. But I think that's always hard, is when you maybe feel or see the regret or that moment they realize, well, it's not easy. I can't just do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.